The new wedding movie Bridesmaids opened as the #1 comedy in America over the weekend, and that got us to thinking, just what is it about wedding movies that we love oh so much? CBS News correspondent Betty Nguyen gets to the heart of the matter.
I'm engaged.
Oh my God!
He asked me last night. What is happening?
The latest bridal blockbuster to waltz into movie theaters isn't about a bride and groom, but revolves around an equally crucial part of a wedding, the bridesmaids.
Breathtaking.
Just so pretty, it makes my stomach hurt.
You look lost.
The film follows a main character who bravely tries to celebrate her best friend's life as hers crumbles to pieces. And at the heart of the story is a realistic lifelong adult friendship.
Will you marry me? Yes.
It's more about those two than it is about their relationships with any men.
I don't think there's anybody who knows me like you.
In fact, men are hardly ever the center of attention.
This is my best friend, Darcy.
In the recently released Something Borrowed, the bride and groom take a backseat to the bigger issues audiences everywhere can relate to.
If she's not going to tell you, I will.
Our wedding movie is inherently romantic. Yes, at some point, but that's rarely the point of the whole thing.
There's insecurities and competitiveness between best friends.
Your wedding better watch it.
Classic sister rivalry.
I'm so proud of you, baby sister.
Annie.
Hi, Dad.
And the tug at your heartstrings relationship between a father and a daughter.
You look beautiful.
What happens in all these movies is these relationships, they're about to change. And this is something that everyone goes through. Everyone in the audience can relate to this.
Jules, we're getting married this Sunday.
Just like a great wedding movie involves humor,
This is some classy
drama, and often a choreographed song and dance.
I say a little prayer for you.
But it's the real-life relationships and heightened emotions that draw us in. And the promise of a happy ending that keeps us coming back for more.
To be my wedded wife.
Betty Nguyen, CBS News, New York.
And joining us now are Emily Giffin, whose best-selling novel Something Borrowed has just turned up on the big screen, and Paul Feig, who's the director of Bridesmaids. Great to have both of you with us this morning.
Thank you. It's good to be here. We're all wearing purple.
I know, it's almost like we're in a wedding party.
It is.
And we're all coordinated.
Exactly. The memo came out. I'm so glad we all stuck together.
It was fitting. Emily, I want to start with you. You know, we just heard from the critics as to why they think we love these movies so much. They pull at our heartstrings. We can relate. But as an author, and you've had such incredible success with your books, what do people come to you and say it is about these kind of stories that really just draw them in and grab them?
Well, I think that a wedding is such a major moment in someone's life. I mean, right up there with birth and death, and this big transition and this choice. You're committing your life to someone. So just that alone, it gives you much material to work with. But when you add into that the fact that you think about getting married from the time you're a little girl. I mean, my 4-year-old daughter Harriet watching the royal wedding last week. I mean, I'm like, what is this doing to her? And then the whole wedding, you have all these people coming together. You know, the in-laws and the two families and the bridesmaids. I mean, there's just so much material.
It's sort of like a big version of high school where the only reason you're there is because of one thing that has nothing to do with anything other than we all know that same person, so you're stuck with these people, and tensions run high.
The tensions run high, but I mean, also, I mean, it is perfect. Talk about being ripe with, you know, comedic material, especially if you're putting together a film about this. Everybody's got something wacky going on when it comes to a wedding.
Oh, no, I mean, it's crazy. I personally, I'm not a fan of weddings, so I come to it with that take on it. To me, a wedding is like when a friend of yours is making a really long, talking on a really long cell phone call, and you're kind of saying like, oh, that's funny, and you're like, oh, get off the phone. That's how it feels. It's like, when are they going to serve the cake? When are they going to serve
dinner? Do you think you feel that way because you're a man?
Yes.
You
and
do?
I've got ADD, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, let's eat. No, I always felt like weddings is like, you know, let's wait 2 hours while they take pictures. Okay, when are we going to eat? It's going to be another hour. Then when are they going to cut the cake? Oh, in 4 hours. It's like, why is this going? So when I got married, actually, we made it so we got, people sat at the tables they were going to eat at. We got married, I turned and said, dinner served. It was a buffet, and then we had cakes on each table.
So you had a well-adjusted wife.
Yes.
Well, I do think men tend to focus on the marriage, the the union, the choice to get married. And so, but women have to worry about their hair, the makeup, the dress, all of that. So it becomes sort of more of a pageant effect.
It is a pageant, especially when you add in all the other people involved. Not just, the mother of the bride takes a lot of heat. It's not just her. It's the other woman. It could be the groom's mother. It tends to be always the women, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Of course it is.
But when you take a look at the, Bridesmaids, this is sort of, all the reviews have said, and there have been a lot of great reviews, but they all sort of say, it's a little raunchy.
Right.
Is this real? Do you think we've really come to this point? Is this a more realistic look at what happens at a wedding?
Look, I'm going to say we didn't really write it to be that dirty. We had some scenes in it that we knew were going to be a little bit that way, but I empowered the ladies on the set to just kind of improv and talk the way they would, and it all came out of them, so my hands are clean.
I think there's people want to see real, real people, and I think Bridesmaids is very real in that people, some women are raunchy, and I think Something Borrowed is very real in that the relationships are messy and complicated, and the protagonist isn't always the perfect good girl looking for her happy ending. There's layers to people, and there's very complicated female friendships.
And what's kind of nice is that with both of these films and both of these storylines, this one may be a little bit more raunchy, this one is maybe perhaps a little bit less traditional. They both seem to be attracting different audiences. As I mentioned, my co-anchor Chris Raggi, big fan of Bridesmaids, and also sort of more traditionally kind of chick-lit stories or chick flicks are also attracting a wider audience.
Well, I think that it's a shame that romantic comedy has become so synonymous with insipid stories, predictable formulas, flat characters. And, in the sort of true vein of romantic comedies, When Harry Met Sally, you have, there's just, there's a romantic element, and then there's it's funny.
Well, I like to call it, I'm sorry, but like more of a life comedy, really.
Right.
Because it's like, life is romantic one minute, and then it's crazy, and there's bawdy the next minute. And so, for us, it was just, as long as you do something funny, it just happens to be women doing it. And what we're discovering is guys are really responding to it. Just because, again, it's just funny people who happen to be women.
They're just, if you're man enough to go and get a ticket for Bridesmaids and Something Borrowed,
Exactly.
come
on, guys.
prove your manhood.
Exactly. Your ladies will really appreciate it.
If nothing else, it could get you a date.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
And you won't have to go to the wedding, maybe. You could just go on a date to the movies.
Exactly.
And then that would be easier, perhaps,
Your
on every
duties
man.
are done. Exactly.
Such a treat to have both of you here.
Well, thank you for
Continued
having
success
us.
with the projects. They're great, and we're looking forward to more of this ilk.
Well,
got it.
thank you.
All right.
Love doing
Paul
them.
Feig, Emily
Thank
Giffin,
you.
thanks again.